Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, October the 21st, 2020. It is currently 10:58 a.m. Central Time. I just arrived here at Victory Baptist Church because I was at home. I got a news alert on my iPad. I looked down, I saw it, and I was like, well, okay, pack everything up, get to the church as fast as I can. So literally, I'm still out of breath. I was running around trying to hook up the laptop, the microphone, getting the iPad. I was trying to, I think the front door of my car is still open. Yeah, I didn't even get all my books out. So yeah, I'm looking out the window right now. Yeah, did I say the front door of my, I don't know what I said. The front door of my car is even still open. So I didn't even have time to close the door. So yes, I'm a little rattled right now. I don't have everything completely together, but I wanted to turn on the microphone as fast as I could because here's a situation. Now listen to me carefully. This is a situation that requires balance here, right? We don't want to overreact. Now you may think I've already overreacted and how fast I drove here and that I turned on the microphone before I was even ready. But I wanted to talk to everyone as soon as possible because I do want to call everyone to a proper balance here. We don't want to overreact, but at the same time, we do not want to ignore this, all right? Because I'm still trying to figure it all out. I've reached out to people who may know more about the inner workings of the Catholic Church than I do, and I'm looking for their expertise. So when I receive responses from them, I've already received one response, and it was the typical response that just irritates me, and we'll talk about that response in a minute. But let's get to the news, all right? So let's do this again. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, everyone. It's Wednesday, October the 21st. It's almost straight up 11 a.m. here in Ovalo, Texas. I'm here at Victory Baptist Church, and, well, we have some breaking news. As I stated, I was at my house. I looked down, I saw this headline, and I was like, okay, stop what I'm doing, get all of my equipment, let's get to the church as soon as possible. I am here, and I'm going to try to present this to you in a fair and balanced way, all right? So I'm going to take a deep breath. Here we go. This is the headline I saw about, 30 minutes ago. Had to be about 30 minutes ago because it took me about 30 minutes to get everything ready and get here. Here is the headline. Pope endorses same-sex civil unions in new documentary. Pope Francis, according to this story, has endorsed same-sex civil unions in a new documentary. Now, when I first saw the headline, I was like, okay, this is probably from some crazy website. Because I try to keep up with everything. But when I opened it, it took me to the Associated Press. All right, so that's an actual news agency. So this is not some crazy, something crazy. So we've got to figure out exactly what's going on. There's so many questions we have to answer here, and we're going to work through this. Now, we'll probably be doing most of our discussion, research, and coverage of this story under the Non-Catholic Catholic podcast. That is the Non-Catholic Catholic podcast. If you do not subscribe to that podcast, you'll want to subscribe to it so you can keep up with all things related to Catholicism. That's usually where I discuss things related to Catholicism. But in this particular case, this is kind of more breaking theological news, I would say. So that's why I'm dealing with this under the Theology Central podcast. So here we go. Pope endorses same-sex civil unions in new documentary. Pope Francis endorsed same-sex civil unions for the first time as pontiff while being interviewed for the feature-length documentary Francesco, which premiered Wednesday at the Rome Film Festival. All right. And Francesco, I think is how you would say it, Francesco, Francesco, which premiered Wednesday at the Rome Film Festival. The papal thumbs up came midway through the film that delves into issues Francis cares about most, including the environment, poverty, migration, racial and income inequality, and the people most affected by discrimination. So those are the issues Pope Francis cares most about. Now, I don't know if that's an accurate representation. I just know that's somewhat concerning. He's the Pope. So, you think the issues he would care most about would be, theological, biblical. Now, I'm not saying some of these issues don't are not related to biblical concepts, but it just seems weird that he's always known for caring more about everything else other than theology and doctrine and scripture. We could get into a whole discussion there. But here comes the quote. This is in quotations. Are you ready? Here is the quotes. And I'm assuming here they are quoting Pope Francis. Here it is. Homosexual people have the right to be in a family. They are children of God, end quote. Now, what does he mean by children of God? Children of God by creation or children of God as far as salvation? Well, not everyone's a child of God as far as salvation is concerned. We are born children of the devil, and we have to be born again and adopted into the family of God. I mean, that's the biblical teaching. So what does he mean by that? Okay, so let me give you the quote again. Homosexual people have the right to be in a family. They are children of God. That ends the quote. Then they add this. Francis said this in one of his sit-down interviews for the film. And then they go back to another quote. You can't kick someone out of a family nor make their life miserable for this. What we have to have is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered. Now let's stop right here. Now this is where we have to be balanced here. Now, when he says there needs to be a civil union law, is he simply referencing that for protection of homosexuals and for them to have the ability to be in a family, et cetera, civil governments need to pass laws to allow them to enter into a civil union? But is he saying that then the church will not recognize those civil unions as being a marriage in the sight of God? Or is he saying there needs to be a civil union law and the church has to accept those unions as a marriage? Like, I need clarification here. We don't want to overreact. Like, if he's just simply saying the government needs to do this, okay, that's one thing. My personal opinion, I don't care if the government wants to recognize whatever they want as a marriage. That's irrelevant. The church, though, can only recognize a marriage as defined by Scripture, which is between a man and a woman. That's how the Bible defines it. So the church, no matter what the civil government says, they can let 50 people marry another 100 people, whatever they can do whatever they want. Polygamy, homosexuality, I don't care what the civil government does. They can do whatever they want. But as far as the church, we cannot recognize it as a marriage because the scriptures do not. All right. So I don't care what the government does. So he's simply saying the government needs to do this so these people can have a family and be protected. But what does that mean for the church? What does that mean for the church? That's the question I have. And how is this going to be handled by the church? Is the church going to continue to preach that the lifestyle is sinful, that it is condemned, that it is wrong, that people need to repent of it? And if they're involved in a civil union, I mean, this is a very important question, especially for Catholics. If they're involved in a civil union, a homosexual relationship, and they're engaging in that lifestyle, does the church still then prohibit them? I mean, is that not a mortal sin? Does that not bar them from the sacrament? I mean, like, how is the church going to handle this? That's the part we need to follow. Like, again, saying that the civil government should do it is okay, but it sounds like let me read it to you again. See, there's so many questions here that I'm still trying to unpack. And we're going to have to get a lot of discussion from Catholics on how this is going to work out. This is the entire paragraph again. They basically have a quote from Pope Francis, then they break up the quote with a comment, then they go back to Pope Francis's quote. I wish they would have just placed the whole quote together, but we'll read it as it is printed by the Associated Press. Here we go. And I'm quoting Pope Francis. Homosexual people have the right to be in a family. They are children of God, end quote. Now, what do you mean they have a right to be in a family? They have a right to be in a family. According to civil law, well, is the Catholic Church going to recognize that family as being a family? Like, how does this impact the church? Homosexual people have the right to be in a family. They are children of God. Then, of course, the Associated Press adds this. Francis said in one of his sit-down interviews for the film, then they stop, then they open quotes again. Pope Francis, I'm quoting him, "You can't kick someone out of a family, nor make their life miserable for this. What we have to have is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered." Okay, they're legally covered, but again, how is the church going to handle it? If the church doesn't recognize it, and the church doesn't recognize it as a marriage, or if they say you're married but you cannot engage in actual relationship, or it's a mortal sin and you're going to be, are they going to be barred from the sacrament? I mean, he's sounding like you don't want to do anything to make them feel bad. Well, okay, well, then how is that going to work as far as the church is concerned? They continue. While serving as Archbishop, Francis endorsed civil unions for gay couples as an alternative to same-sex marriages. However, he has never come out publicly in favor of civil unions as Pope. So he supported, when he was Archbishop, he endorsed civil unions for gay couples as an alternative to same-sex marriages. Okay, you have a civil union. That's the civil government recognizing it. But I'm assuming as an archbishop, he didn't recognize it in the churches, right? Is that the distinction we have to make here? The article continues. The Jesuit priest who has been at the forefront in seeking to build bridges with gays in the church, the Reverend James Martin, praised the Pope's comments as a major step forward in the church's support for LGBT people. Now, what do you mean? A step forward for the church's support of LGBT people. What do you mean supporting them? Supporting them as people, but still maintaining the biblical morality when it comes to sexuality and saying this is right and this is wrong and we fell and this is what we like. What do you mean support? The Pope, speaking positively about civil unions, also sends a strong message to places where the church has opposed such laws. One of the main characters in the documentary is Juan Cruz, the Chilean survivor of clergy sexual abuse to whom Francis initially discredited during a 2018 visit to Chile. Cruz, who is gay, said that during his first meeting with the Pope in May 2018, after they patched things up, Francis assured him that God made Cruz gay. Cruz tells his own story in snippets throughout the film, chronicling both Francis' evolution on understanding sexual abuse as well as to document the Pope's views on gay people. So now if he's saying God made you gay, is he saying God made you gay so it's okay that you're gay? Because we could argue, quote unquote, God made us sinners, so then it's okay that we sin because we're all born depraved sinners. This is a thing that drives me crazy about Pope Francis. He says things that leaves everyone going, what in the world are you talking about? And then he rarely clarifies himself. And then Catholics start making all kinds of excuses. Well, Pope Francis is not very articulate when he speaks of theological issues. And Pope Francis, you can't blame him for this. You can't blame. No, he's the Pope. If he says something that is confusing, he has the ability to speak to the world anytime he wants. He can clarify it. So I need some clarification here. What in the world is going on? What is going on? Has the Catholic Church completely crumbled to the spirit of the age when it comes to homosexuality and sexual morality? Or are they going to say, hey, homosexuals, you're okay. Hey, but you young people, hey, if you commit fornication, you're in sin. Hey, young people, if you use birth control, you're in sin. But hey, homosexuals, you're okay. Hey, divorced people, you got divorced, you got remarriage. According to the Catholic Church, you cannot engage. You need to remain celibate. You cannot. You are to abstain from sexual relations, or you're going to commit adultery. Are you going to relax those rules? So I'm perplexed here. God made you gay. So does that mean, hey, just stay gay? You're okay. Or what do you stay gay, but you have to abstain from the practice? I need some clarification here. The director had remarkable access to cardinals, the Vatican television archives, and the Pope himself. He said he negotiated his way through persistence and deliverance and deliveries of Argentine mate tea and cookies that he got the Pope via some well-connected Argentines in Rome. Listen, when you're in the Vatican, the only way to achieve something is to break the rule and then to say, I'm sorry, he said in an interview ahead of the premiere. The director worked official and unofficial channels starting in early 2018 and ended up so close to Francis by the end of the project that he showed the Pope the movie on his iPad in August. The two recently exchanged greetings. It says here. I'm looking here. I'm looking here if there's anything else here that we really need to know. Now we kind of come back to the subject here. Francis' outreach to gays dates to his first foreign trip in 2013 when he uttered the now famous words, "Who am I to judge?" when asked during an airborne news conference returning home from Rio de Janeiro about a purportedly gay priest. So I guess there was some news about a gay priest, and the Pope says, "Who am I to judge?" Who? You're the Pope. You make all kinds of judgments. Like, I don't understand. Okay. Since then, he has ministered to gays and transsexual prostitutes and welcomed people in gay partnerships into his inner circle. One of them was his former student, who, along with his partner, visited Francis at the Vatican's Washington, D.C. embassy during the Pope's 2015 visit to the U.S. The Vatican publicized that encounter, making video and photos of it available after Francis was ambushed during that same visit by then Ambassador Archbishop Carlo Maria, who invited the anti-gay marriage activist Kim Davis to meet with the Pope. News of the Davis audience made headlines at the time and was viewed by conservatives as a papal stamp of approval for Davis, who was jailed for refusing to issue same-sex marriage license. The Vatican, however, vigorously sought to downplay it, with the Vatican spokesman saying the meeting by no means indicated Francis' support for her or her position on gay marriage. So what is the position of Pope Francis on gay marriage? Is it the same position as articulated in the Roman Catholic Catechism, or is it something different? And let's see here. They go on. Let's see here. But the Pope's authorized biographer at the time of his 2013 election said that the Pope was politically wise enough to know the church couldn't win a straight-out fight against gay marriage. Instead, he urged his fellow bishops to lobby for gay civil unions instead. It wasn't until his proposal was shot down by the conservative bishops that the Pope declared his opposition, and the church lost the issue altogether. Francis in the new documentary confirms his account of what transpired. Of his beliefs in the need for legislation to protect gays living in civil relationships, he said, "I stood up for that." So he did stand up for civil unions, but again, I don't know what that means as far as how they're accepted by the church. Has this been clearly defined? Hey, you have a civil union out there. You've got the legal protection of the civil government, but the church will not recognize it as a marriage. And we still condemn homosexuality as a sin. But it seems he's made all kinds of comments that call into question exactly what is going on. Now, I reached out to some Catholics. In fact, let me look here really quick, see if I've gotten any more notifications. And all I've gotten so far is what I thought I was going to get. What I got is, hey, something very important to consider. When does the Pope speak infallibly? So this is always what they do. The Pope says something absolutely crazy, and you're like, wait, what is going on? They're like, hey, he didn't say that infallibly. He didn't say that infallibly, so it doesn't count. It doesn't count. It doesn't. So unless he says something infallibly, it doesn't count. Well, if it doesn't count, how far can he go before it does count? And how far can he go, even though you're saying it's not infallibly, that it begins to change the thinking and the practice and the beliefs of local parishes? It just seems like a cop-out. He didn't say that infallibly, so it doesn't count. Hey, he didn't say that infallibly, it doesn't count. Hey, he didn't say that infallibly, it doesn't count. Okay, well, if he said it infallibly, does it count? Are you saying that he can sit down and infallibly basically change the entire biblical morality on sexuality and it would count? You see here, I think I just got another message. All right. Okay, this is someone from a monastery just sent this to me. Okay, here we go. Pope Francis calls for civil union law for same-sex couples and shift from Vatican stance. Now, this comes to us from a Catholic news agency. So I was sent to this is a Catholic and a monastery who just sent this to me. This is what it says. In a documentary that premiered Wednesday in Rome, Pope Francis called for the passage of civil union laws for same-sex couples, departing from the position of the Vatican's doctrinal office and the Pope's predecessor on the issue. So he's literally departing from the position of the Vatican's doctrinal office. And obviously he's going against Pope Benedict, obviously. The remarks came amid a portion of the documentary that reflected a pastoral care for those who identify as LGBT. Homosexuals have a right to be a part of the family. They're children of God and have a right to a family. Nobody should be thrown out or be made miserable because of it. Again, thrown out of what? Thrown out of society or thrown out of the church? That's the part I need clarification on. They said Pope Francis said this in the film of his approach to pastoral care. Now, I said pastoral care, that if he's referring to pastoral care, he's talking about inside the church. So it's like, hey, is this some weird game where the church says, hey, they're not married, so it doesn't count, but we accept them in the church and we accept their family. So then can they engage in the activity and it's okay by the church? Like, I don't understand how this works. After those remarks and comments likely to spark controversy among Catholics, Pope Francis weighed in directly on the issue of civil unions for same-sex couples. Well, what we have to create is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered, the Pope said. I stood up for that. Okay, well, great. Again, how does that impact the church? And let me see what else I have here. Here they have this. The Pope's direct call for civil union laws represents a shift from the perspective of his predecessors and from his own circumspect positions on civil unions in the past. So he's even changing his own views in the past. All right. The Vatican's press office did not respond to questions. Imagine that. Because that's what I hate. They never respond, and then finally they'll come back and go, well, the Pope didn't really mean that, and then try to back down. You see. Yeah, they don't. Do I have an? And there's no comments under this. Yeah. So we're going to have to continue to follow this. We'll have to see. I'm looking for more notifications here. I don't have any more notifications. I'm trying to see if. Wait. I may have some more here. All right, give me a second here. All right. I got a notifications here, but it's not opening. Give me a second. Let me close this and reopen it. I got about 500 different sources open here because I'm trying to figure out exactly what we need. We need a Vatican comment here. And I need to know exactly what this means as far as how the Catholic Church is handling things. All right, let me open this. Okay, I reached out to just Catholics because I want a Catholic approach to this. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Now, this is what I'm being told. Given that the article itself seems very pro-gay, I suspect the context of Pope Francis's remark, which is completely absent in the article, would indicate something completely different from what the article affirms. As was the case some years ago with the comment about who am I to judge, in which his words were twisted to mean the opposite of what he meant. I would say on the face of it that this is a case of journalistic overreaching to promote a media agenda. So they're saying that his words are being taken out of context. Every time Pope Francis says anything, Catholics say, it was taken out of context. It was taken out of context. Well, here's the thing. As soon as Pope Francis realizes they were taken out of context, Pope Francis releases a statement that says, here's exactly what I mean, and then do a series of catechesis and teaching, reaffirming the actual doctrine of the Catholic Church. I'm so sick of everyone making excuses for it. Just say what you mean and mean what you say. It's not hard to look into a camera and say, the Roman Catholic Church's position is that homosexuality is a sin, and we will not recognize any civil union in the church as a marriage, and anyone involved in that will have to follow whatever the rules are in the Catholic Church. But it's always like, nope, they didn't mean that. Nope, they didn't mean that. Nope, he didn't mean that. Nope, he didn't mean that. Nope, he didn't mean that. Well, then what did he mean? So I don't know. Again, remember what I said at the beginning. We don't want to overreact, but we don't want to ignore it. So I'm trying to be balanced here. But so far, I've received, in fact, let me look here. Yeah, I'm looking to see. Wait, I got more comments here. Okay. All right. No more comments about that. I'm just waiting for Catholics to give me some. And these are Catholics who are involved in, these are Catholics who are involved in the church and in teaching capacities and other capacities. So I'm trying to get people who really know, not just the average Catholic. So that's where we stand right now. If you do a search, let me go back here. I know I'm doing all of this literally live on the air, but that's okay. If you just do a search for Pope Francis right now, immediately you're going to get, here's what we have. I mean, they're everywhere. NBC News, Pope calls for civil unions for same-sex couples, and major department from the Vatican. New York Times, Pope Francis in Shift for Church voices support for same-sex civil unions. Washington Post, Pope Francis calls for civil union law for same-sex couples. Associated Press, Francis becomes first pope to endorse same-sex civil unions. Yahoo News, Pope Francis calls for civil unions for same-sex couples. I mean, it's literally everywhere right now. It's literally everywhere. So we're going to have to wait and see. EWTN on their news programs will probably do a lengthy discussion about this. And when they do, they'll have to, I am absolutely positive they'll bring in bishops and cardinals and other leaders in the church to say how this impacts the church's teaching, and how this will impact how the church handles it. That's the part we need to see. I think this is a first major step to a complete change in Roman Catholicism in regards to this subject. You could see it's a possible first step in the church's teaching crumbling. And there's I don't want to make any, I'm going to be careful with predictions. Let's just say I think this is a first step in a different direction, and it's going to have major impact in the years to come. All right. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there right now. But I'm still trying to figure all of this out. I'm still trying to put it all together. I'm sorry if this was a little scattered, but literally, I knew this was going to be big. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, this is going to be big. I've got to get to the church. And just from the time that I'm talking, now news articles are everywhere. The media is the media is going in full blown frenzy here. And again, we don't want to go overblow this. We don't want to blow this out of proportion, but we don't want to downplay it either. We've got to have a balanced look at this. But listen, this is a question every church has to ask itself. Every church has to ask themselves this question. I think this is important. If you have two individuals who are in a civil union, a homosexual civil union, let's say they've adopted a child, and now they come into your church and they're willing to repent. Well, obviously you don't. Well, it doesn't. Now, actually, it's not even that complicated. I guess from at least my perspective, we just don't recognize the union as a marriage. It's not a marriage. and we would tell them that it's not a marriage. We don't recognize it as a marriage. You're not married from a biblical definition. And obviously you have to abstain from physical relations. You can't engage in that activity, just like we would have to tell, to single people who are dating that they have to abstain from physical relations. Now, we could get into a whole discussion how the church sometimes is inconsistent because you have people who are divorced and remarried, and we don't place those restrictions on that. And in many of those cases, they would fall under the biblical definition of adultery. Right? So that raises. I understand that these raises lots of questions, but how is the Catholic Church going to deal with this? What? I don't know exactly what Pope Francis is saying. Some of those comments seem so, and I agree we don't have the full context. I do agree with that. At least we don't have the full context, but I hate that that's always the excuse for Pope Francis. He can clarify this in 3 seconds. This does not need to remain a mystery. But he says these things. It's almost like he pushes the envelope, right? He pushes the envelope as far as he can push it. He lets everything blow up and never say this. Then the Vatican will release some kind of, vague statement trying to backtrack a little bit of what Pope Francis says, and then everyone just moves on. But